you check the children? Show a little match sometimes.
Hi, I'm Chucky. Wanna play?
Sometimes. That is what
You're gonna need a bigger boat.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Horror Show. I'm Cecil Laird.
And you got Jaime and Fuego here.
And we are following up last night's review of the original 1988 Beetlejuice with the brand new 2024 Beetlejuice Beetlejuice. And
Don't say it one more time, dude. Don't
I know.
say it one more time.
Well, I did technically say it 3 times, so,
okay.
we're screwed already.
Yeah.
This is going to be, I think, an interesting discussion, as you mentioned briefly before we started, and I was already thinking the same thing. We are going to be discussing this film in a non-spoiler capacity. There are obviously ways around spoiling things while still giving our complete thoughts on this.
Yep.
And we're going to start, as we normally do, with our overall thoughts. And, excuse me, my goodness, my body's fighting back against my opinion on this. Because here's the thing, guys. The original Beetlejuice, I rewatched it today ahead of this viewing.
And I rewatched it a couple days ago.
And I hadn't, before we did our review, I hadn't seen it in probably a decade all the way through, but I watched it so many times growing up. Like, when I was rewatching it, I had so many flashes of different moments in my life where I was just sitting watching this movie. And it was absolutely one of the reasons I fell in love with the horror genre at such a young age. Because my parents, it was in the 80s, right? They didn't really... It was, I think, was it PG-13?
It was PG-13, yeah.
Okay, so, but it was very nearly after they created PG-13, so it largely probably would have been considered PG if it had been a few years earlier before they implemented the PG-13 rating.
Yeah, it's not quite as crazy.
Jaws.
Yeah, it's like a Temple of Doom or something like that, which is what made the PG-13 rating actually come into effect.
But there was so many crazy things. It was Tim Burton really establishing his style. And I absolutely adored it, and so much so that as I was rewatching it today, I was like, "Dude, all of this is in my memory bank." Like, but there were certain things that I had forgotten. I had actually forgotten that they were attempting to utilize the ghosts in the house to try and make money. I was like, "Wow, that's really ahead of its time." Before ghost shows became a big thing and all of that. And I think that's why I found the plot of this one so much more engaging than I necessarily expected it to, because they don't tell you in the trailers, but it's something that's revealed right off the bat. But basically, there's a ghost show that Lydia sort of is the host of, and it's really an interesting angle that I wasn't expecting. And so I was on board for this film for the first 3/4 to 4/5. Like, I really enjoyed, the first hour and a half, or the first hour and 15 minutes of this movie felt like kind of a warm sleeping bag for me. It was a return to form for Burton, in my opinion, a return to his, original sort of oeuvre, of course. But I do have one issue with the set design and everything that I do want to mention when we get to it. But outside of that one issue, I felt transported into this weird, odd world that Tim Burton created years ago. And watching the first one again today, it was a lot more kind of nonsensical than I remembered it being as far as what it chose to do. But, when you're not picking movies apart the way that we do nowadays,
unfortunately,
it's just something that's fun. And I think for those people that don't pick apart movies the way that we do, I think they'll have just as much enjoyment of this one as they did of the first one. I really enjoyed a great chunk of this film, and then once the big musical moment in the third act happens, it kind of falls off for me. It goes, the final act goes from being way too drawn out with one thing they choose to focus on, being the musical number, to being completely rushed as well. So the third act, the big ending, again, I'm not spoiling anything. I'm just saying that it goes from why are we doing this for so long, to wait, that was really fast. And it was that was the only issue I had with the film. Otherwise, I really dug it. I really had fun, and I loved seeing Michael Keaton return to form here.
Yeah, and that was the thing that I found the most joy in with this, man, and I actually, even when we were reviewing the original, a rushed third act was one of those big things that I kind of was reminded about. I don't know. I have some mixed feelings about this one, and it's more so than anything because of the fact that when I saw the fact that we had like 4 different writers, Seth Grahame-Smith being one of them, who is the Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter, and I really like his stuff, but there was a lot of half-baked subplots, man, whether it was the romance with Jenna Ortega and that other guy, and we find out what's going down with him, but also with Beetlejuice's first wife, like, it's revealed early, and then we don't see anything until, a lot later in the movie. So there was just a lot of, just half-baked and, plot points that did not really, align themselves. But Justin Theroux was my MVP of this movie, dude.
Wow, really?
Cracked me up consistently. I thought he was honestly hilarious. He stole the show for me as far as just that trying very much to, gain Lydia's, following and, work it to the best of his, just, gains and whatever else. So yeah, man, I thought he was utterly hilarious. And, Winona coming back to this role, she was, 15, 16 when she was doing the initial one.
Crazy,
and,
yeah.
Yeah. And she has not, she's aged gracefully, man. I mean, she
Very
still looks
much so.
very... Yeah, very pretty.
She looks
and still
way better in this than she does in Stranger Things.
Agreed. And I think that was a deliberate thing.
It's intentional,
fine,
yeah. Mm-hmm.
Joyce
is not meant to look put together. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Jenna Ortega was a little underused, more so than
I feel like
expecting.
she could have been almost anyone in that role. Like she was good in the role, but I don't feel like this needed to be Jenna Ortega.
I think it was the Wednesday association, and so of course you're gonna toss her in there. And sorry, I have a cat trying to jump on my lap over here. But yeah, man, it was one of those where I enjoyed it enough, but I was definitely not ecstatic with where they went with it. And I don't know. It was kind of like with Dumb and Dumber 2, where I thought it was good but not great. It was kind of like with the Anchorman sequel, where I thought it was, and I know I'm making the comedic comparisons here, but it was very much of that
comedy,
ilk. Yeah, it is. And so, I never expected to be praising Justin Theroux and his sliminess as a character for being one of my favorite parts of this film. But yeah, I thought he was great, honestly. He was the unexpected thing. We get the Danny DeVito cameo that you even nudged me when we were watching it, like, that's Danny DeVito.
Well, he didn't get revealed. We saw him from behind, and I just was like, oh, okay, that's who that is.
Yeah.
So we might as well just talk about the acting again. Like we jumped into that first in the last review as well. Yeah. So we'll do that before we talk about the story. I actually so Justin Theroux did play his role well, but it was a very predictable character to me. And like, writing on the wall from frame one for me. And he did deliver the dialogue well, because he's meant to be this 2024 touchy-feely guy that's, he's really connected with his inner self and his feelings, and he plays that role really well. So I will say, like, his character annoyed the shit out of me, but he played it really well. I thought, again, I think, like you said, Jenna Ortega was really underutilized. She did her job well, but I don't feel like it was, it was a role where it had to be Jenna Ortega. Like, I feel like a lot of girls could have been slotted into that role and it would have worked out fine. But she did a great job for being the one that got the role.
I think they got her on the cheap at the last moment that they could potentially be able to do that, because of the fact that, she is commanding with her star status rising a significantly higher dollar. So
I will say I think Willem Dafoe was completely unnecessary.
I mean,
unnecessary in the whole film. I feel like Beetlejuice's ex, again, like you said, like just background dressing for
Yeah.
most of the movie. I did very much like the return of Beetlejuice. He and Catherine O'Hara stole the show for me. Catherine O'Hara was peak every scene that she was in. She
really
nailed
wondering-
this role, and she was even acting the same way that she acted in the first one, in as much as, like, Catherine O'Hara's acted in a lot of things, but she, like, her role in the first one, I noticed, like, some lines she would deliver with her eyes closed until she looked away from the person she's talking to, and like that, and she repeated that, like, her character continued to do that in this film. She was awesome. She was incredible the whole way through, and Michael Keaton, just so much fun, and enjoying being able to jump back into Beetlejuice's skin, in my opinion. But yeah, all in all, the acting was strong, but a lot of people were just underutilized.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Not given enough time, and
Right.
even with Catherine, man. I mean, it was interesting because of the fact that playing that sort of bitchy character and everything, and then stepping back into those feet, and she's done milder stuff like Home Alone and well, I guess Schitt's Creek. She's not the most beloved of characters or anything like that, but So at the end of the first film, though, I thought that her and the husband were dead, but they were just like relegated to the attic. Like that was the one thing with her character still being alive.
Wait, why were they weren't dead?
Well, that was kind of the vibe that I got upon my rewatch, because of the fact that they were so Alec Baldwin and Gina Davis's characters were back down in the actual home with Lydia, and then the two of them were stuck reading the handbook of the afterlife upstairs, and so I don't
they
know
were
if
just
there was
finally able to get into the attic, and they were looking at
Okay.
what was there.
All right, yeah, I just didn't know if they were trying to retcon some stuff or
No,
whatever.
they weren't. They
with her
definitely weren't
character
dead at
actually
the
still
end of the
being
film.
alive.
No, absolutely not. Yeah, the way they handled Jeffrey not being there, I think that was his name, was really funny to me. And
Agreed.
I wasn't fully aware of what happened with that actor.
No, I totally wasn't either. That's why when we were praising his performance and everything, and
that might have gotten snipped at this point. I will say that.
Okay. Well,
But it's because we didn't know. It's because we didn't know. But the choices that were made, obviously as a result of the way things played out, was really, really funny to me.
Yeah, I agree.
I was like, holy shit, this and this and this. Like, it was so funny to me.
And that's totally why he didn't return, I would assume, because of that controversy.
Oh, of course,
So,
of course,
yeah.
of course,
Yeah.
of course. But nonetheless, the acting was overall strong, but
It
a couple
was,
of people
it
were
was,
just kind of
yeah.
wasted. Let's get back to the story, though. So the story is laid out very well in the trailer, and that's that Lydia and Catherine O'Hara's character, her stepmother, the Dietzes, are still living in the house. The husband has passed on, and so there are funeral services and everything. And Jenna Ortega, who plays Lydia's daughter, doesn't have the best relationship with her, and
So-called mother, or whatever she says. Yeah.
It's an interesting setup because it turns out that while Lydia can see ghosts, Jenna, Astrid is her name. She doesn't believe that her mom can see ghosts. And so it's obviously caused tension through their lives, and that's what's kind of played on through the movie. So I thought that was interesting. I thought that was cool, and I actually really liked. There were a lot of plot lines in this film, and I think a couple of them were left kind of out to dry, and so they were very thin, i.e. the X and everything. But a lot of the plot lines I actually did very much care about, and I liked when they all kind of converged. So a lot of the structure I was a fan of. I liked a lot of the story, most of the story actually, how it played out. But I still, I wouldn't even necessarily change how the end played out. I would change the pacing of how the end played out. That's what I would do. So overall, I was a big fan of the story and how it played out. It was actually a lot stronger than I was giving it credit for based on the trailers I saw.
Yeah, it felt like a very frantic ending, similar to the original, and I feel like they were kind of, trying to mirror that.
Did it feel frantic, though, with
that
musical number? Was that Bowie?
Damn, I'm trying to remember now.
It sounded like Bowie. I don't know
Yeah.
that song that well, but
You know, they were saying that musical number was gonna like eclipse the Wednesday bit with
bullshit.
Goo Goo Muck and everything, and no, I don't think it really captured that,
No,
unfortunately.
it
Um,
overstayed its welcome.
yeah, it did, and it was not as like immensely choreographed, and yet the amusing thing is that Jenna Ortega said that she ad-libbed most of that dancing anyway, so it's not like it was on the Wednesday show like some full, every step and every number and was very calculated.
So the first
She was
movie,
just riffing, dude. So
yeah. Sorry, not to cut you off.
no,
The
you're
first movie had two musical moments. This movie also has two musical moments. I much
I thought they were gonna do a
appreciated
callback.
the first
I
one.
thought they were gonna do a
No,
callback.
I loved the callback. The way they did the first musical callback with the choir. I loved that. I thought that was
Okay.
hilarious. I
I
thought
thought
that
they were
was
going to
so
do a
funny.
full-on callback with the original.
No,
like,
no,
song
I
and
didn't feel
everything,
like
but-
it was necessary. I feel like what we got was perfect. Was perfect.
Okay.
But
With
that's
the
just
funeral
me.
scene.
Yeah,
and
yeah,
that's
yeah,
in-
yeah, yeah.
And that's in the trailers and everything
Yep,
too.
yep, yep. I
Yeah.
loved that. I thought that was hilarious the way they did that. But yeah, so anyway, did I cut
Yeah, I
off
mean
your
the
thoughts on the
story
story?
was. Yeah. The story was just. I liked the unexplored aspects of it. Unfortunately, most notably, you have this one idea about the fact that Lydia is this paranormal podcaster, show host, whatever, and they kind of explore that, but then they abandon it, and then we have. I feel like I'm being uber negative, man. But
Well,
unfortunately,
look, you feel how you feel.
yeah,
you know?
man. And then there was, the whole, Beetlejuice's first wife, and they have this like resounding introduction for her, which was really awesome, where she's kind of reassembling herself
yeah.
without spoiling stuff too much. And then she doesn't show up till the end in the movie.
Well, we get glimpses of her through the film.
Kind of.
Well, not kind
Yeah.
of. We literally do, but they're very brief glimpses. Yeah.
Yeah. It's not. It just didn't have that essence of prominence that I really felt like,
That's fair.
the importance of it. And so, yeah.
I did identify the real villain very early on. Like I knew pretty quickly who the real villain was going to be, kind of thing, and it was just a matter of waiting until everyone else caught on. But outside of that, the story was fun for me.
Yeah.
Filmmaking. How did you like the filmmaking?
It's Burton, dude. I mean,
Yeah,
even
that's
even
brilliant.
the stuff
It's always so
yeah,
good.
Even Miss Peregrine was one with Eva Green that
I never
really,
actually watched that. The School
I
for
like
Wayward
that movie
Children.
a lot, dude. That's it. Yeah. It's kind of a riff on X-Men, but
Yeah.
like goth X-Men, talented kids
Eva
and stuff.
Green's
And so,
amazing. Yeah.
well, I mean, watch Dame to Kill For, and you will see how amazing she is with her bodily parts and everything.
Good
But
Lord.
yeah, man. But yeah, she's rad status in that flick, and I just don't think that Burton is producing quite to the level that he did when he was firing on all cylinders. I mean, I've said to most people that I don't know if he's made a great movie since Sweeney Todd, but that's just my personal opinion and everything.
Well, he almost jumped out of things after Dumbo and
Yeah.
the one after, right? Didn't he do something after that too?
I'm trying to remember because Dumbo was a major disappointment, and
Yeah.
I mean, with Danny DeVito again, Michael Keaton, I thought that could have been, because I love the original animated Disney version of it. It has some darkness to it, and I thought that his sensibilities were really gonna make sense there, and they did not.
No.
And they spent a lot of money
This
on
is
that
where
movie.
this is where he shines. The only
Yeah.
issue that I had, and I think this is a good segue into the production,
Okay.
outside of just the filmmaking. The only issue, like Beetlejuice 1, the underworld, the afterlife felt like an afterlife. Like this whole thing felt like an office building,
Oh, yeah.
a cubicle farm almost. You could feel in the other room, like what I felt in this one is these things that we visited, for whatever reason, and maybe this is just me, and maybe I'm nitpicking, and maybe like this makes no sense. This is a stretch.
I've been nitpicking throughout, man. So,
Maybe this is a stretch
you're
for
fine.
some people, but these things felt a lot more setty to me.
Yeah.
A lot more set-like than an actual place we were in. And I feel like the lighting was not leaned on
Those scenes in
as
particular,
much.
good call, dude, because of the fact that they felt more hyper stylized with
Well,
some
they
of the
felt
color
like they
correction
felt
and
like a set
everything,
just
and-
built because it didn't feel like
Yeah.
anything was connected, right? We didn't we saw the hallway, but we didn't actually see anything that the hallway connected to. We saw the waiting room, but we didn't see anyone really transition, like actually get taken from the waiting room to anywhere else. Like we saw the walk through the back offices with the flat guy in the first one, and we
also
didn't,
sitting down with the woman and she's chain smoking.
Yeah,
and she's
yeah.
Like, I can try to help
we
you
got
out.
we
I
got
mean,
we
you
got
know,
like
yeah.
we skipped from the waiting room to that room with Willem Dafoe, and like it didn't feel as much like a world as a series of sets. That
I
was
loved Willem
like
Dafoe, dude,
they were
but he
very
felt
well
out of
dressed.
place, man.
Yeah, completely. They felt very well dressed, the sets, but they did feel like sets instead of a part of a world.
Yeah.
That's one issue that I have to say I had.
Well, I'm glad that you actually mentioned one because you've been glowing gloriously.
Well, no,
about
I
this film
said
for the most
if
part.
some of the actors felt misused and
Yeah,
underutilized. I wasn't as big a fan of Justin Theroux as you, because it was his was the most hammy performance of everyone in the film.
Deliberately.
Although him and Willem Dafoe could give each other a run for their money in this, because the whole be real thing felt very forced.
Yeah.
And like never really came to a cool fruition of any kind. So like I gotta say, there were definitely a couple of missteps. There were a couple of missteps, and again, the last fifth to fourth of the film, I had issues with. But it was overall a really fun, romp and return to a Tim Burton world that I really liked, even if it didn't feel as fully fleshed out as it did originally.
Yeah, and so then, did you like to look at the new sandworms when we saw them for those brief bits and things of that nature?
It was clearly CG just trying to be stop motion. So I liked the way the sandworms were utilized. I always do, and I did like the fact that we saw it snap just outside the doorway in the first one, and in this one we saw that it actually would try and get through the doorway. Word that it was able to, so I did like that. Like I liked it. I do like it. It didn't feel as cool as the presentation of it in the original.
I agree.
But that's I'm old. A lot of the youth they don't really
I'm not
care
far
about
behind
that.
you, man.
They don't care about that. They're like, oh, cool. Like it looks different and kudos to him, because it is still a very stylized film, and I don't want this kind of film to disappear. Like I want new audiences to be able to experience this kind of film and demand more like it. If we didn't get this, there might not be as many people that would want this kind of off-kilter, very grim comedy. I don't want those things to go away. Again, I think Monkey
especially
Bone,
with the themes of death, man.
Yeah.
I mean, but yeah, even when we explore, where there is no father present, and some revelation about that, I thought that was like pretty grim dramatics and interesting in that regard.
I felt like, yeah, that was all a good setup, but I do feel like the way that resolved was a bit lackluster in my opinion. Unfortunately. But yeah, ultimately, I mean, well, and then the sound design, of course, sound design and score. I gotta mention the score. Was it Elfman again?
It was Elfman again,
Okay.
and the fact that he did this revamped version that we heard at the very
I
beginning.
loved it. Like it got me
overhead
jonesed
stuff.
again, dude.
Yeah.
I loved the
because I
opening
could
credits.
tell where he was tinkering with it a little bit. There was like almost some essences of like synth percussion that he was like, just kind of sprinkling around and shit, and I thought it was really cool.
Yeah, but yeah, I really enjoyed the score, and it got me jonesed right at the beginning, and I was like, cool, I was on board for it, and it stayed awesome throughout. Sound design, great also.
Everything Burton sound design is always top notch, man.
So there's so many aspects of this film that were a success. There were just a few shortcomings. I think definitely it's a worthwhile experience to go see in the theater on the big screen for certain scenes, especially. But
yeah, and I mean, definitely if you're a fan of that previous film, I mean, just
sure.
go out, support it, and Michael Keaton just getting, and once again, he's not utilized throughout. So it's not an essence of like overabundance because he was so popularized with the previous film and he doesn't show up till like 45 minutes in the first film. In this one, he's also not overly utilized. And I was wondering if they were going to just have him throughout, but no, they really focus on Lydia, which because Winona Ryder carries it pretty well, I appreciated that. So
yeah. All right, guys. Well, I think that's going to do it for our review of Beetlejuice. Let us know in the comments down below if you've seen the film. What did you think of it? I know we're putting this up when only the initial screenings have gone on, but still very curious about people's thoughts even after the film comes out. So keep us informed as to what you guys think. Thank you again for watching. Thank you to all of our patrons for supporting the channel the way that you do. Thank you to Allied for the invite to go and see this film. And thank you to Patrick for the cool pictures that he took of me with the Bobs at Mad Monster. Gathering of the Ghouls. Thank you guys very much for watching. Until next time, I've been Cecil Laird.
And Gracias Fuego.
And remember, stay scared.